After a successful loan spell at Getafe, where he scored 8 goals and assisted 6 times in 33 games in the Spanish top flight, Mason Greenwood has bade his farewell to this Spanish team that offered him a place to feel home, at least when Manchester United exiled him. But it is all done now, and he's set to return to Manchester United pending a decision over his future from INEOS. Now, of course, he certainly had to come out there and release a statement trying to show the fans of Getafe how much he fell in love with them the period he was there. And that's the statement where he said, incredibly grateful to the Getafe family and fans for an amazing season. It was a pleasure to play for you, and I wish you all the best. That is Mason Greenwood for you now. Welcome aboard, guys. I've got to break down for you what exactly is going on with this whole all of this Greenwood situation. But like, share, and subscribe, of course, here on this video. Now, we do know that INEOS are set to be making several decisions concerning several things at Manchester United. Now, one of them now they have got to decide is on whether or not to bring back Mason Greenwood, because first of all, it looks like Getafe will not be keeping him longer. They are hoping they could convince Man United to sell him to them for a low price, but United feel like that this is a player they value highly. If they are going to sell him, they need to get serious money for him. But it doesn't seem to be an easy thing for them to sell him. I think certain big clubs are not sure whether they want to take him on or not. United are saying, well, if you don't want him, you're not getting him for cheap. If you're not meeting the money we value him, we would rather keep him for a bit longer and loan him again, because they certainly know they will get a club to loan him again to. If not, they will try to reintegrate him into the squad. So there is still a possibility that actually Mason Greenwood could join the preseason tour. There is no contractual right or a ground on which INEOS can stop him, or the club can stop him from training with them, because he's still contracted to the club and he has got to be training. So he's a free man, and he certainly has got to be training for as long as he wants to. So there's a possibility that he could be available with Man United for preseason. And depending on who the coach will be, who knows? I mean, just drop this Greenwood boy into this team. He comes and trains with the rest of the squad again. He will do magic on the training ground, and the manager will be left with decisions to make on whether to keep him or not. So it's going to be an interesting, I think, turn of events, what exactly will happen with Mason Greenwood and his time at Manchester United. But the reality is there seems to be an open door by INEOS. They have still kept their open door approach when it comes to him, and they are waiting to see what to do with him. Now, it's not only him. Of course, we know that this week, in a few days, like I told you before, Fabrizio has confirmed it as well, that INEOS will be going into a meeting with the representatives of Erik Ten Hag and himself to try and see whether or not to keep him and or part ways with him. They seem to be, I was seeing a video somewhere by a certain journalist who said he had a chat with Erik Ten Hag, and he showed him about 84% of Man United supporters backing him to stay, and he was smiling so happily from ear to ear because he does want to start Manchester United as well. So it looks like the turn of things for Erik Ten Hag might be different, but it's not just the only one big decision that INEOS has got to make. The thing is, INEOS have taken their time to make decisions on certain things, but they knew, and I've been saying it time and again, that the time will eventually come when they've got to make a decision. Now, this is the time where they've got to pronounce themselves on Erik Ten Hag, and most importantly for me, Mason Greenwood, because you look at the rebuilding that is going on, the fact that there are no clubs, most of the big clubs, by the way, don't have so much money to spend as well because of the financial fair play rules. So you look at all that and you're thinking, a player like Greenwood, who you price and rate highly, you won't sell him easy. You won't find, unless you're going to settle for a low fee. But if you're going to try and hold on to the right fee, it might be difficult, which for me would be a blessing in this case for Manchester United to help this rebuilding phase, because you look at Garnacho and Kobe Mainu and Hoyland and how their season went. Bruno, who is the lead and certainly destined to stay, drop in Mason Greenwood in that team, and you've solved nearly 70% of the problems of the team. Just add on a good centre back and get a few more fit players, increase the depth of the squad, and Manchester United will be up and running and competing. Erik Ten Hag made it clear he wants competition for the good players in all positions, and that way players will be pushed to perform better, to be on their toes every week in training, to keep their levels up for them to be able to get the minutes. So if that is going to happen, it is players like Mason Greenwood that you need in your team, because who better than Greenwood to push any winger, even if it's Michael Olise, who United seem to be interested in making their first signing. If you sign, Michael Olise, which player at Man United is going to push Olise to be at his best game? It is always going to be a world-class player close to him, and Mason Greenwood is just that. So it's a very interesting, tricky situation. I think INEOS will probably, again, after sorting probably the Eric Ten Hag situation, I think they will go into the Greenwood situation because it's another big situation to solve. We see how fans are a bit divided about Eric Ten Hag. I think Greenwood is the other figure that will divide or bring or destroy whatever INEOS is building. So they've got to get solutions for these big elephants in the room early. And if that is done, then the progress will be seen in terms of where we're headed. Because for now, without knowing whether Greenwood is staying or not, without knowing whether Eric Ten Hag is staying or not, there's no proper direction for the club. There's no direction. Where is the direction? Under whose management? Greenwood is a key player. Where is the direction? Is he staying or not? So all that is important. If INEOS are going to get to recruit everyone on board, and we all trust and follow whatever they are doing and building the whole process they are trying to work on. So that's where we are. But Getafe are still open to keeping him on loan. If United explored that option of keeping Greenwood on loan, Getafe are still open. But honestly, guys, I do want to get your take on Greenwood. He's coming back from his loan spell to Manchester United. Should we send him away again without even giving him a chance to see what it would look like if we try? Because there is a January transfer window if it doesn't go well. For me, my thinking is the best way to approach the Greenwood situation is bring him back in preseason, integrate him fast into the squad, and study the atmosphere and see. Try to manage the people who are failing him. See whether he will fit in and play football again. Try and see how it goes. Go to preseason. See how it looks. How does it look during preseason? Then, when the season starts, bring him and reintroduce him. Bring him, name him in the squad. Let's see what happens. Put him on the bench. Start him in games, and we see what happens. We see the reaction of the opposing teams. We see the reaction of the general football, atmosphere. We see the reaction of the Premier League. If it doesn't work, there is a January transfer window for us to say, you know what, it doesn't work, loan him again or sell him even for cheap if you have to. But my thinking is Greenwood is not a player you just lose easily. He's a player you've got to fight for to some extent. We've got to show some bit of fight for Mason Greenwood. He's worth it because we desperately need him, and he will make a lot of sense in our rebuild. Of course, there are people who look at it from the other side and they're saying, with all the issues United has endured, we don't want to again go back into that Greenwood talk that had settled in a way. But I mean, we're a football club, and this is one of the best players in the world. We are rebuilding. He's only 22. He's our player. You have to face it. Honestly, you've got to face it. He did not kill a person. He did not kill a man. I think there are ways to reintroduce him, integrate his girlfriend or his wife to be fiance into the whole conversation. Let her come out and speak to people and openly, speak to, do interviews with him, talk about how they're okay, how she also had a mistake, she could be blamed for what happened. Greenwood has sought help or support, and he's okay now. He's recovering. They're okay. The best thing for them is to stay and feel at home in Manchester. There are ways to try and if really they want him to return and and settle into football, they have got to find ways of making it amiable for him. Because in any case, the reality is, this is a British kid. He's from Manchester. He's a Manchester boy. Even if he's going to return to Manchester or not to play for the club, they're not going to make Manchester the city unbearable for him. It's his home. So there's got to be a way, and the club has got to be a part of helping him reintegrate himself into the community. Otherwise, he will be rejected. He will feel the wrath if the club just leave him out there to go and just be wandering around on loan like he's a homeless guy. I think for me, that's what they've got to do. It is said that he put out his house for rent. I do recall, I think a few weeks ago, where that story was broken, and I spoke about it here, that he put out his house on rent. And Jadon Sancho rather bought a house close to Eric Ten Hag. So even Jadon Sancho is another decision that has got to be made. So you can see that INEOS has got a couple of major decisions to make, and the earlier they sort them, the better for whatever they are doing, but most importantly for the club, Manchester United, because then we would have clarity on which direction we are taking in terms of the critical things that matter at the club. My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot. Subscribe and let's wait and see what exactly Greenwood's homecoming will end like.